So, today I wanted to get into Sam Smith's new latest album, Love Goes, which this is actually my first ever Sam Smith album that I've actually listened to in full. And I must say, other than it being musically inconsistent and kind of all over the place sound-wise, I actually enjoyed the album. There was definitely a lot of hits here and there. Sam Smith's vocals are everything. They're so angelic. He does so much with his voice too, which brings me to talk about the versatility that's just in this album. There's a lot going on in this album. I don't necessarily look at that in a bad way or a good way. It's just kind of just an observation. I would have preferred for it to be more so in order, or for it to kind of cling to some kind of theme. Because as you go through this album, from the first song, it's young, it's like this calm down ballad, this piano, it's very slow and melodic, and then the next song is like this dance electric pop song. Then it calms back down again, and then it's just a lot going on. I wish things was ordered differently. Maybe that would have contributed to it being a better body of work, but this is still a pretty solid body of work. Some of my favorites from this album is Diamonds, of course, I'm Ready, My Oasis, Love Goes, and Forgive Myself. Oh my god, these songs are just, it's everything. When I look at my favorite songs from this album, there's so many different sounds that from each one of my favorite songs. Diamonds, this EDM kind of electric pop kind of sound, and then I'm Ready is this nice melodic sound, this traditional ballad featuring Demi Lovato, and Demi Lovato absolutely added to this track in a way that I actually did not expect her to do. I don't really listen to her a lot. I don't know if I should do an album review to her, but she really did her part in that song and really helped bring that song full circle. Now we also have My Oasis by Burna Boy, and Burna Boy is another artist that the features in this album were everything. Burna Boy really brought My Oasis together. I wish his verse was longer and he contributed a bigger role into the song, but I think the song was already complete, and Sam Smith kind of just signed it to him, hoping that he'd get on it. I really wish that he was, I don't know, I kind of wish that he joined in the chorus and he kind of added a little bit more, because Burna Boy is such an amazing artist. His voice is so amazing. It fit this song like a glove. I really wish he was more of a force in this song. I can't stress that enough. Another thing to point out about this album as well is the lyrical content. I was listening to interviews or whatnot about Sam Smith, and he was going over a lot about the album, and I like bodies of work that kind of you can listen to it and you don't need an interview, you don't need the story behind it. The album kind of tells a story on its own. And I must say, well, never mind, for example, Dancing with Strangers, he literally said he wrote that song about, he was literally dancing with a stranger in a club one day, and he wrote it about that. But, he talked about, how these songs talk about, him healing and whatnot. And I guess you can see that with songs like Forgive Myself and Time to Die and I'm Ready and Fire on Fire. You definitely do see a story about someone, and definitely Dance Till You Love Somebody. You definitely see someone who felt for somebody, and they're definitely trying to get back on their feet after, being heartbroken. They're trying to find their strength again and, find themselves, away from that relationship. It's just that I wish that I got more of the story in the album. I feel like most of these songs, most of the songs in this album, they were kind of just oriented around this chorus, and there just weren't any verses or any words that really stood out to me. It was more so kind of just, I don't know, it was just very lackluster as far as verses go. And that's what I enjoyed so much about the features, because not only that, but just that new voice coming in, and then with their verses, it kind of helped brings these songs that would have kind of sounded a little half-assed if they were not a part of it. I'm just still very annoyed about the versatility in this album being so counterproductive, because it just seems instead of this feeling like an album, it just feels like a body of songs that just kind of I don't know, it just seems like random songs, or it's just kind of annoying. I wish sound-wise these songs were kind of ordered better, the slower songs could have been towards the end of the album, and you could have began with some of the more stronger songs, like, Diamonds could have like kind of like began this album and like more of like the upbeat kind of song, and then things would have kind of slowed down towards the end of the album. I feel like it would have sounded better in that way. I don't know. This album doesn't really like tell like a big story or anything. There's just not like a big theme. It just seems like a body of work that just has some decent songs on it. It just doesn't feel like an album to me. But I definitely like. I would have. And yes, in the interviews that I looked over and the bio for like when you go to an album, there's like a description, and he goes into detail about each and every song and like what he was going through as he was writing it and what it's supposed to mean and its significance. I would just personally, music should kind of speak for itself. Like, yes, I do enjoy interviews about people talking about it and like you getting behind the song, but I kind of like when music kind of speaks for itself and you can kind of get the story on your own versus just like, oh, okay, this is what it's about. And not only that, but sound-wise, the album, actually, well, no, sound-wise, the album was fantastic. Like, even the songs I didn't like, as I was listening to the album, it wasn't like, oh my god, like get this out of my ear. It was kind of just like, like you were like listening to it, but you didn't think anything of it. But it was pleasant to the ear. It just didn't stand out like, oh, hold on, like let me download this and add it to the library. Like, it wasn't a bad song. I personally don't think there's a bad song on this album. It's just very underwhelming, and it could have been more as far as content and context. Like, the music just wasn't speaking what he was saying in the interviews. I would recommend this album to somebody simply because there are some bops on this album. Like I said, Diamonds is Everything. I'm Ready is an amazing song. My Oasis is everything. It's just, as an album, it's just, I wouldn't go back to the album and listen to it, but I would definitely pick some songs out the album to listen to. It's just a very lackluster album. There's just not a lot to dive into. I mean, there's a lot of like ideas to dive into, and like there's a lot of thinking as to like like what does he mean by this? And like, oh, like there's some insightful points here and there with songs like Forgive Myself and I'm Ready. Like there are some points, but other than that, overall, it was kind of just, there was nothing memorable about this album outside of the songs that I said. I don't know, it just didn't feel like a solid body of work. It just felt like an album with some good songs on it. But I did still enjoy it overall. But if I were to rate this album, I would give it a 5 out of 10. It's just that even though there are some solid songs on here, it just seems like everything was kind of just very musically inconsistent and kind of all over the place. And the songs, the other songs kind of just didn't lack any depth, really, or anything going on other than like, like the chorus. Just isn't a lot going on here, but there are some, some good songs to take away. And yeah, that's all I really have to say about this album. If you like this album review, please like, subscribe, join. I definitely have other more exciting albums that I review too. Ooh, the shade. But yeah, I'm out.
Yes, I did that. And you would do it too for a check. I was an employee. And I was going to get employee of the month. And that's on period.